At the dinner table, my wife, Amelia, pushed a divorce agreement toward me. Her deep eyes lingered on me for a long while before she finally spoke. I need to help Andrew humiliate his ex-wife, so we need to divorce first. After that, we can. Before she could even finish, I took the divorce papers, signed them without even glancing at them, and casually opened a bottle of red wine. Seeing how indifferent I was, Amelia raised an eyebrow in surprise. You're not jealous? Chapter 1. I poured myself a glass of wine and drank leisurely, completely unconcerned. Why would I be jealous? A good chance like this to completely humiliate someone should have come sooner. Besides, Amelia was convinced I'd remarry her eventually. So to reassure me, she transferred all the assets to my name, which was hilarious, considering how absurdly stingy she'd always been with me. For 7 years of marriage, I survived on a monthly allowance of $5,000 while doing the dirtiest and hardest work imaginable. Her sudden generosity today was only so the divorce would go smoothly, allowing her to marry her first love, Andrew, and help him save face. Last month, I got sick and didn't have enough money. I asked her in advance for $10,000 to cover my medical bills. She didn't even ask how sick I was. Instead, she exploded at me the moment I opened my mouth. $10,000 is 2 months of your expenses. Are you secretly supporting another woman outside? Listen carefully, Frederick. Money doesn't grow on trees. Learn to spend less. Back then, I thought she was simply used to living in poverty and reluctant to spend money. But just 2 days ago, she threw a lavish banquet to welcome Andrew back home. With one carefree wave of her hand, she transferred him $10 million as spending money. Our co-workers didn't know we were married, so they joked that this was how rich girls aggressively spoiled the men they were chasing. What they didn't know was that Amelia came from an ordinary family. Back in college, even her tuition fees were paid through the money I earned working part-time jobs. Everything she owned today was built through our combined effort, and yet she was taking our marital assets and using them to spoil a pretty boy. Luckily, after all the suffering, things had finally turned around. With this money, I could completely retire and live comfortably for the rest of my life. Amelia had no idea what I was thinking. Since she'd gotten the signed divorce agreement so effortlessly, she was in such a good mood that she actually placed some spinach onto my plate. I still remember spinach is your favorite. I specially learned how to cook it for you. I glanced at her speechlessly. Favorite? I'm allergic to spinach. Okay. The very first time she ever cooked for me, she made spinach too. Back then, I was hopelessly in love with her, so I ate it anyway just to avoid disappointing her. Afterward, my entire body broke out in hives, and it even caused severe gastrointestinal bleeding. At the time, she felt so guilty that she stayed by my side in the hospital for several days. But now, all she remembered was that Andrew liked spinach. She had completely forgotten that I was allergic to it. Seeing that I still hadn't touched my chopsticks, Amelia was about to urge me to eat when the doorbell suddenly rang. She instantly forgot everything else and happily skipped toward the door. Andrew, come in. Treat this place like your own home. Andrew walked in wearing casual clothes, carrying a box of desserts. Frederick's here too. If I'd known, I would have brought another gift. I nodded silently. No wonder the table was filled with dishes I couldn't eat. So this candlelight dinner had never been prepared for me in the first place. He's a grown man. Why would he need a gift? Hurry and show me what goodies you brought. They stood extremely close to each other, Amelia practically leaning into him. The Amelia who always acted like an untouchable ice queen in front of me was now behaving like a young girl madly in love, playfully sticking out her tongue at him. You really haven't changed at all. Still such a reckless little troublemaker. Andrew looked at her dotingly. He originally intended to pat her head, but when he noticed me from the corner of his eye, he awkwardly lowered his hand halfway through the motion. Ah, it's my favorite cream cake. Amelia scooped up a spoonful and nearly jumped with excitement after tasting it. I shook my head with a bitter laugh. Once, I had bought her the exact same cake. Instead of making her happy, it earned me a vicious scolding. Don't you know I have high blood sugar? Buying me cream cake, are you trying to kill me so you can steal my property? But now that Andrew was the one giving it to her, suddenly her blood sugar was perfectly fine again. Then again, this was a gift from the men she truly loved. How could it possibly be the same? Amelia and Andrew used to date. They were the perfect golden couple, the envy of everyone around them. But because both families opposed the relationship back then, Andrew abandoned her and went overseas. I had secretly loved Amelia for 3 whole years, quietly helping pay her tuition. Every morning, I brought her hot steamed buns. Every night, I followed behind her to protect her while she worked part-time jobs. Yet from beginning to end, we never once spoke to each other, until the night they broke up. She got completely drunk, and when I took her home, she suddenly grabbed my hand. Frederick, would you marry me? I swear I'll forget him. From now on, for the rest of my life, I'll belong only to you. As I looked into her eyes, sparkling like stars, it felt as though I was looking at my entire world. At that moment, only one thought existed in my mind. I will. Chapter 2. I thought that after all those years of waiting, spring had finally arrived for me. I married her, stayed by her side as she built herself up from nothing, and helped place her on the throne of a powerful businesswoman. For her sake, I asked for no shares, no money, and outside the company I didn't even have the status of a husband. But no matter how much I gave, in the end, I still couldn't compare to even one finger of Andrew's. 3 years of secret love and 7 years of marriage had completely drained all the passion from me. Silently, I pushed the spinach aside. Amelia noticed the small movement, thinking I was jealous. She actually comforted me for once. Don't worry, Frederick. Once we finish helping Andrew with this, we'll remarry immediately. I said nothing, because we would never remarry again. The entire dinner, Amelia happily piled food onto Andrew's plate while chatting about memories from their younger days, completely oblivious to the fact that I hadn't eaten a single bite. When it was time to see Andrew off, Amelia deliberately changed into a gorgeous red dress. Turning toward me with a smile, she said, "Something came up at work. I have to pull an all-nighter tonight, so sleep by yourself. Don't wait for me." Without even waiting for my response, she left laughing and chatting with Andrew. I cooked myself another bowl of noodles, quickly finished eating, then lay down on the bed. The moment I picked up my phone, I received a video from Andrew. In the video, he and Amelia were at an arcade playing games together. Amelia was smiling as brightly as a blooming flower. Back when we had just started dating, I once wanted to take her out to have fun too, but she told me I was childish and that instead of wasting time playing around, I should work more overtime and make money. So I worked myself to exhaustion every day helping her earn money, only to accidentally overhear her complaining to her friends that I was boring. It took me a long time to understand. That was probably the difference between being loved and not being loved. Andrew kept sending me videos and photos of them having fun together. I didn't reply to any of them and eventually fell asleep scrolling through short videos. The next morning, we had agreed to meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 o'clock. I intentionally arrived half an hour late. After all, Amelia was always late. No matter how important our plans were, she would always show up about an hour behind schedule. But this time, the moment I arrived, I realized Amelia had already been waiting there for quite a while. She wore exquisite makeup, and the joy in her eyes whenever she looked at Andrew was brighter than anything I'd ever seen. Even during our honeymoon, she was in an unusually good mood today. Normally, if I was even 1 minute late, she'd scold me for lacking time management skills. Yet today, despite me being 30 minutes late, she ran toward me smiling, linked her arm through mine, and thoughtfully asked, "Did you eat breakfast?" I brought pork and mushroom buns. I looked at the lonely, cold bun sitting in the bag and immediately knew it was leftover from Andrew. I waved my hand dismissively. "Let's just handle the divorce." She looked at me in surprise, snorted softly, and tossed the bun into the trash can. During the entire process, I remained calm and emotionless. I had already rehearsed this scene countless times in my mind. The moment our divorce was finalized, they immediately went to register their marriage. When divorcing me, Amelia had been impatient and perfunctory the entire time, but while registering her marriage with Andrew, she smiled non-stop, her happiness practically overflowing from her face. Andrew waved the marriage certificate in front of me and wrapped an arm around Amelia's shoulders. "Don't worry, Frederick. I'll take good care of Amelia during this period." Holding my divorce certificate, I said nothing. I had already bought a train ticket back to my hometown. Amelia froze for a moment, seemingly thinking I was sulking. Her tone softened. "I'm sorry, Frederick. I promised before that I'd go back to your hometown with you, but I suddenly need to go on a business trip out of town, so I can't accompany you." I replied coldly. "We have nothing to do with each other anymore. You don't need to explain anything to me." Amelia stared blankly for a second. She fidgeted with her fingers, looking strangely anxious for once. "The place I'm traveling to happens to be a tourist area. If there's any local specialty you want, I can bring it back for you." I shook my head and walked straight past her without another glance. Chapter 3. First, I went to the company to process my resignation. After that, I dragged my suitcase back to my hometown to visit my parents' graves. During the 7 years I was married to Amelia, she always had an excuse whenever it was time to return to the countryside. This time was no different. I cleared away some weeds, burned paper money for my parents, and chatted with them about everything that had happened recently. By the time I finished, the sky was already completely dark. My phone had been ringing non-stop. It wasn't until I was done that I finally had time to check it. My former co-workers were shocked by my resignation and kept sending messages asking if I was okay. Aside from that, Andrew had sent me countless videos and photos. The two of them claimed they were on a business trip, yet they spent the entire day sightseeing everywhere in matching couple outfits. Watching scene after scene in those videos left me dazed. Amelia once told me that street food was dirty, which was why she had always refused to go to night markets with me. And yet now, she was holding Andrew's arm, walking through lively alleyways filled with food stalls, accompanying him while he ate stinky tofu. They watched the ocean together, watched the sunrise and sunset together, doing all the romantic things I had once begged her to do with me, only to be rejected every single time. Andrew posted photos of the two of them together on social media. Caption: the taste of reliving our youth. Amelia followed shortly after with her own post, but unlike Andrew, she only uploaded scenery photos. Caption: still just as beautiful as before. I couldn't help laughing in disbelief. Amelia probably still didn't know that Andrew had already added me on WeChat long ago. Yet she was still trying to avoid making things obvious to me, acting all cryptic like some guilty cheater. I silently scrolled past without responding. After resting in my hometown for a few days, I returned home again. Amelia had given the house to me, and I lived there comfortably while researching the self-media industry and preparing to start my own business again. While I was conducting market research, my former co-worker Lucas suddenly started sending me non-stop complaints. Amelia brought assistant Andrew back to the company today. On his very first day back, Andrew wrote the client's name wrong, and because of that, a $50 million deal completely fell apart. And that's not even the worst part. Amelia defended him in front of everyone, saying it was just a typo and that the real problem was me not double-checking the documents carefully enough. Then she criticized me for half an hour straight and told me to pack my things and get out. I replied with a speechless emoji in text form. Back when the company was just starting out, I once stayed awake for 2 straight nights for the sake of a single project, but because I was too exhausted, my tone during the presentation sounded somewhat flat. She blamed me for not sounding enthusiastic enough and said that was why we lost the contract. Then she humiliated me in front of the entire staff, sternly declaring that there was no such thing as a small mistake at work, and that any mistake was a serious offense. And now, she was favoring Andrew to this extent. If this had happened before, I definitely would have tried persuading Amelia to fire Andrew for the company's sake. But now, I couldn't care less. Thinking of this, I immediately extended Lucas an invitation to join me. He became excited for a while and continued pouring out his grievances to me, which incidentally allowed me to learn quite a few things. The moment I resigned, Amelia immediately handed the nearly completed project I'd been overseeing to Andrew. But how could Andrew possibly manage something like that? To pocket extra money for himself, he purchased low-quality materials at inflated prices. At this rate, something bad is definitely going to happen sooner or later. Thank goodness I quit early. How ridiculous. Back then, for the sake of helping the company grow smoothly, Amelia had even fired her own cousin because her work ability wasn't good enough. And now she was allowing a useless pretty boy like Andrew to ruin the company we had worked so hard to build. This was probably what true love looked like. For him, she was willing to abandon every principle she once had. But that company wasn't hers alone. I had poured 7 years of my life into it too. I picked up my phone and reported the matter to the relevant authorities. Chapter 4. After finishing a series of procedures for the report, I was just about to sleep when Amelia pushed open the door and came home as if nothing had happened. She handed me a gift box. Inside were several oddly shaped seashells that still carried a faint fishy smell. Amelia smiled brightly and flirtatiously winked at me. There happened to be a beach nearby, so I picked up some seashells for you. Do you like the gift? I glanced at them. I recognized those shells very well. Andrew had sent me a video before. The two of them had been sweetly collecting seashells together on the beach. Every time Amelia picked one up, she would ask him if it looked pretty. If Andrew said yes, Amelia carefully kept it. Whenever she picked up ugly ones, Andrew told her to throw them away. Amelia casually waved her hand. Throwing them away would be such a waste. I'll bring them back and give them to Frederick instead. I picked them myself, so it still looks thoughtful, and it doesn't even cost money. Andrew deliberately raised his voice. Isn't that kind of inappropriate? He is your husband after all. Without even looking up, Amelia continued digging through the sand. Oh, come on. It's not like you don't know. Back then, I only married him because I had no other choice. I never loved him anyway. Her light-hearted words kept echoing endlessly in my mind. Looking again at this Amelia who now pretended her entire world revolved around me, I only felt disgusted. I pushed away the gift she handed me. Amelia froze for a moment, as though remembering something. She suddenly stepped forward and wrapped her arms around my waist, speaking softly. Are you missing your parents again? Their deaths were just an accident. Don't keep blaming yourself. At least you still have me with you. I'm tired. I broke free from her embrace and lay down on the bed. Amelia stiffened briefly before climbing onto the bed as well and leaning against me. Frederick, let's have a child. If you have a family line to continue on, your parents can rest peacefully too. I pushed her away indifferently. I had always wanted a child. In the second year of our marriage, I accidentally discovered a pregnancy test she had left in the bathroom. When I found out she was pregnant, I was overjoyed, eagerly waiting for her to come home and tell me the good news herself. But what I got instead was paperwork confirming the termination of the pregnancy. At first, I thought it was an accident, so I carefully asked her why. She immediately exploded at me furiously. "You've got it easy, don't you? You don't have to sacrifice anything and can just wait around for a child to appear. But giving birth damages a woman's body, and I'm in the middle of building my career. You just want to use a child to tie me down and turn me into some worn-out housewife, don't you?" Back then, I stupidly sympathized with how difficult things were for her as a woman. I carefully took care of her while she recovered, bringing her tea and water and tending to her every need. Only later did I learn the truth. At first, she actually had considered keeping the baby, but then Andrew returned. He had come back to get married. Yet Amelia mistakenly believed Andrew had returned to take her away with him, so she aborted the child without hesitation. And now, she suddenly wanted a child, but I no longer wanted one anymore. Seeing that I continued facing away from her, Amelia looked stunned. "Didn't you always want a child?" "I'm sleepy," Amelia sighed, her tone softening. "You were never like this before. Every time, you used to be so impatient and eager." As she spoke, she wrapped her arms around me again, her slender pale hand slowly moving downward. I abruptly grabbed her wrist and sat up. "I'm sleeping in the guest room." Amelia widened her eyes and shrieked, "Frederick, you said no matter what I did, you'd forgive me. So what kind of tantrum are you throwing now? I'm already giving you a way out here, so stop acting ungrateful." I ignored her, slipped on my slippers, and walked toward the door. A moment later, a pillow slammed hard into my back, followed by Amelia's furious scream, "If you won't touch me, plenty of other men will." I didn't stop walking. I closed the guest room door behind me and locked it. Outside the door, Amelia paced around for a while before directly calling Andrew. She even deliberately turned on speakerphone so I could hear clearly. "Andrew, I'm staying at your place tonight." I knew she was intentionally saying it for my benefit, but so what? I simply pulled the blanket over myself and went right to sleep peacefully. Amelia stormed out furiously and didn't return all night. If this had happened in the past, I definitely would have chased after her anxiously. But now, I couldn't care less. In fact, I was already considering changing the locks as soon as possible. We were divorced already, yet she kept running back to her ex-husband's house. I seriously had no idea what was going on inside her head. Early the next morning, Amelia came back fuming. Her eyes were red, and she looked at me pitifully. "Frederick, why didn't you come looking for me? Back when we fought and talked about divorce before, you always bought flowers to cheer me up. What's wrong with you now? Don't tell me all those things you once said about loving me forever were lies too." I was completely speechless. She was obviously the one who betrayed me. So how had she somehow managed to act like I was the one at fault? Chapter 5. I was just about to speak when the doorbell suddenly rang. Amelia frowned. "Who could it be this early in the morning?" I smiled slightly. "My honored guests have arrived." The moment Amelia heard the words, "honored guests," she froze briefly. Then, as if suddenly realizing something, her face lit up and she coyly pouted at me. "We've already been husband and wife for so many years, yet you still love pulling tricks like this. You should have told me earlier. I barely dressed up today. It's so embarrassing meeting your friends looking like this." She smiled shyly, no longer angry, and quickly adjusted her dress and appearance in front of the mirror before happily running to open the door. The moment the door opened, several police officers stood outside with stern expressions. "MS, Amelia, you are suspected of economic crimes. Please come with us." The smile on Amelia's face instantly froze. She subconsciously stepped backward. "Officers, there must be some mistake, right?" I walked out from inside the house and calmly explained, "There's no mistake. I was the one who reported it." Amelia stared at me in disbelief. "Frederick, are you insane? Whether I'm insane or not has nothing to do with you. You should focus on honestly confessing your crimes to the police." I waved my hand dismissively, and the officers escorted Amelia away. As she was being taken out, she glared at me with pure resentment in her eyes, but I wasn't going to indulge her anymore. That very afternoon, I hired someone to change all the locks. She would never again be able to barge into my house in the middle of the night. During the period Amelia was under investigation, my life finally became peaceful for a while, but before long, the investigation results came out. In order to profit from the project, Andrew had secretly contacted suppliers before taking over the contract and arranged to split the inflated profits 40-60. However, he had done everything using Amelia's name. Later investigations proved that Amelia had been completely unaware of the scheme. Andrew was taken away for further investigation. As for Amelia, the very first thing she did after being released was call me. "Well done, Frederick. You've really grown capable now. Even your methods of revenge after getting jealous are on a completely different level." I was utterly speechless. Cutting corners on residential construction could literally get people killed if something went wrong. Yet the way she talked about it made it sound like I'd simply stirred up trouble out of spite. She came from poverty too. When had she become this cold-blooded? Or perhaps, I had never truly understood her at all. Amelia's arrogant voice rang out again through the phone. As long as you're willing to help, take the blame and admit this was your mistake, then I'll let go of the fact that you called the police on me. What a lunatic. That kind of crime could land someone in prison. Besides, I didn't even do it. Why should I become someone else's scapegoat? When I remained silent for too long, Amelia became impatient. Why aren't you talking? Did you suddenly become mute? I'm giving you one last chance. Admit fault for this, and I'll remarry you immediately. Why did she still think I desperately wanted to remarry her? I laughed softly and shook my head. No thanks, we're better off separated. Amelia sounded stunned. You're really not planning to remarry me? That's right, I answered calmly. On the other end of the phone, Amelia went silent for a moment before coldly snorting. Andrew was right. The moment men get money, they get full of themselves. He even warned me not to give you any money back then, but I didn't listen. I stupidly trusted you. And look at this. After 7 years, a man's heart still changes so quickly. After hurting me this deeply, she still wouldn't allow me to let go. And somehow, simply refusing to take the blame for her beloved Andrew had become betrayal in her eyes. How ridiculous. You're right. Men really do change easily. Unlike you, who's loved only Andrew from beginning to end. I hung up the phone. Amelia never called back. At first, I thought she had finally felt ashamed and backed off. But before long, my photos exploded across the internet. The company contacted the media, claiming the poor quality construction project was entirely my fault, even fabricating stories that I had intentionally framed Andrew as a scapegoat. Even I hadn't expected that before officially starting my self-media career, I'd already gone viral. Unfortunately, it was the kind of viral fame that ruins reputations. Countless reporters rushed to get the first scoop, surrounding and blocking the entrance to my home. Chapter 6. Looking at the cameras surrounding my house, I quietly closed the curtains. At that moment, Amelia called me. Judging from her voice, she sounded extremely relaxed and pleased with herself. So, have you realized your mistake yet? I suddenly understood. So the company's public statement had been her idea all along. To protect the men she loved, she was actually willing to frame me like this. Yet she had completely forgotten that Andrew was the one who cruelly abandoned her back then. And everything I had done for her, everything I had sacrificed for her, she remembered none of it. What an ungrateful snake. But what Amelia didn't know was that I possessed concrete evidence before I ever made the report. So I immediately released all the evidence to the public. The proof clearly showed that Andrew had greedily purchased substandard materials on purpose, causing the construction quality to fail regulations. And throughout the entire process, Amelia had enabled and tolerated him. Housing safety involved ordinary people's lives. The issue instantly exploded online. Countless people flooded Amelia and Andrew's public social media accounts with attacks and criticism. Although Amelia held the title of CEO, the real power still belonged to the shareholders. The public outrage caused by the scandal became too massive. On top of that, many employees also came forward and reported Amelia's misconduct. After a unanimous board decision, Amelia was removed from her position. Only then did the public anger gradually begin to calm down. Furious, Amelia came storming to my house. I refused to let her in, but she forced her way inside anyway. Now both of us are ruined. Happy now? I said nothing and calmly poured myself a glass of water. The miserable one was her. As for me, I actually used the surge of online attention to quickly grow my self-media account. Why are you distancing yourself from me? Amelia asked again. I still ignored her. After thinking for a moment, she softened her tone and tried explaining herself. I know you're angry that I pushed you out as the scapegoat, but don't overthink it. I just wanted you to go back to relying on me the way you used to. I really do love you. I never actually wanted to ruin you. I let out 2 sarcastic laughs but didn't respond. What she gave me was never love. It was extreme control and exploitation. She tightly controlled my money until I barely had enough to eat, never even allowing me to buy decent clothes. But when it came to Andrew, not only did she shower him with money, she constantly lowered her standards and principles for him, indulging him without limits again and again. And now she actually dared to call that love. Not even a simp would believe something so ridiculous. Chapter 7. Another deathly silence filled the room. After a long while, Amelia sighed as she sat on the sofa. Andrew's actually really pitiful. Back then, his parents threatened him with their lives to force him to go abroad. Later, they forced him to marry a woman he didn't love. That woman kept suppressing him and ruined his future, leaving him unable to accomplish anything. He's not truly greedy for money. He just wanted to achieve something in life. He only broke the law by accident. You've lived a much happier life than him anyway. So what if you spend a few years in prison? Once you get out, it's not like I'd abandon you. The way I looked at her became even colder. That's still against the law. In her eyes, no matter what Andrew did, it was always understandable. He was always the victim, always innocent. If she wanted to help him so badly, then she could do it herself. I wasn't stupid. Amelia grabbed my hand and looked at me with those affectionate eyes again. But I'll love you forever and stay by your side. Back then, this was exactly how she tied me down emotionally. And now, she still wanted to use the same trick to force me into submission. Did she really think I was still that naive fool from years ago? I forcefully shook her hand off, my voice icy cold. I don't want this kind of love, and I definitely don't cherish it. Amelia clearly hadn't expected me to become this heartless toward her. After all, before this, I had practically obeyed her every word. If you keep acting like this, I'm really going to get angry and ignore you. I reached out and shoved her toward the door. This is my house. You're not welcome here. She refused to leave, but I forcibly pushed her outside anyway. Standing at the doorway, Amelia stomped her foot anxiously. Frederick, don't regret this. Regret it? Of course not. If anything, I wished I'd never met her at all. Amelia still refused to give up. She stubbornly waited outside my door every day, occasionally bringing food she had personally cooked. I learned how to make this porridge. Do you want to try some? She blocked the entrance to my house, so I silently turned around and walked away. Amelia stomped her foot angrily again. Back then, weren't you always saying you wanted to eat food I made? I'm cooking for you now, so why are you suddenly acting so difficult? I turned around and looked at her speechlessly. You said it yourself. That was back then. We ended a long time ago. Amelia's eyes suddenly reddened, and she pouted in grievance. But ours was only a fake divorce. You agreed to it back then. Since she kept blocking my path, I finally explained clearly. I only signed the divorce agreement and agreed to divorce you. I never once agreed to remarry you. After all, constantly being harassed like this was exhausting. Amelia looked confused. Why? You already knew everything about me and Andrew, didn't you? What happened between us ended long ago. I was only helping him out. What exactly are you so angry about? There she went again. Completely unreasonable. I walked away while Amelia kept insisting she would never give up. Whether she gave up or not had nothing to do with me anymore. I had already stopped loving her. Instead, I spent my time browsing famous tourist destinations online and decided to finally go out and properly enjoy life. Thankfully, Amelia was so overwhelmed dealing with Andrew's legal troubles that she no longer had the energy to stalk me every day. So I completely slipped away. I booked flights and started traveling from one scenic destination to another. Back then, Amelia controlled my money so tightly that I didn't even have enough cash to buy cigarettes. But now, I finally had plenty of money to truly enjoy life. And it wasn't until Amelia spent days waiting outside my house without seeing me that she finally started to panic for real. Chapter 8. She sent me countless messages and made endless phone calls. I didn't respond even once. Instead, I carried my backpack and traveled everywhere freely. By the seaside, I filmed videos and carefully managed my social media account. When I turned around, I saw Amelia standing behind me. She was wearing the dress I had once given her, holding a bouquet of flowers in her hands, gazing at me affectionately. Frederick, I've come to marry you. Will you marry me? For a moment, it felt as though I had returned to the scene of my proposal 7 years ago. Only this time, our roles had reversed. Back then, I had held up a ring full of excitement and hope. Yet she had looked cold and impatient, even embarrassed, hurriedly urging me. I do. Hurry up and put the ring on already. So many people are watching. This is so embarrassing. At the time, I thought she was merely shy, but later I realized she had been telling the truth. She simply felt ashamed of having me by her side. Once, by accident, I discovered the wish she had written down when she was 22 years old. She dreamed of Andrew proposing to her in front of a crowd. The person she longed for had never been me. And now, the scene I had fantasized about countless times in my dreams was finally happening before my eyes. Yet I couldn't feel happy at all. The surrounding crowd cheered excitedly, believing they were witnessing a beautiful love story. But the feelings between Amelia and me had always been nothing more than my one-sided devotion. This time, I was the one standing coldly among the crowd. The only difference was that I never accepted the ring. Amelia looked at me with disappointment in her eyes. If you're still bothered by what happened with Andrew, then you don't need to worry anymore. I've completely cut ties with him. I won't protect him anymore either. Can we get back together? She stared at me hopefully, wanting me to become her strongest support once again, just like I had been 7 years ago. But I was no longer that naive fool from back then. Besides, could Amelia really let Andrew go? She had said the same thing before, yet every single time Andrew appeared, she immediately lost all composure and forgot everything else. Someone like that wasn't worth my attachment anymore, nor was she worth any further sacrifice. There's nothing between us worth remarrying for. I turned around and walked away. Chapter 9. Amelia froze for a moment before hurriedly chasing after me. The surrounding crowd whispered among themselves, completely unaware of what was actually happening. What exactly are you angry about? Can't you just say it so we can solve it properly? If it's because of the divorce, I can explain it to you again, or I can make it up to you. Don't you still want a child? You talked about it for so many years. I finally stopped walking and turned back to look at her. That's enough. Do you really still not understand what the problem is? You never truly loved me from the very beginning. You only chose me as your backup option. For one vague promise from him, you aborted our child. And everything you ever gave me was always the leftovers you and Andrew didn't want. In these 7 years, I never once received genuine warmth from you. So why are you so certain I'd definitely remarry you? Amelia stood there stunned by my questions, as though she was only now beginning to reflect on things. But it was already too late. I turned and walked away again. Yet she stubbornly continued following behind me. You secretly loved me for 3 years before finally winning me over. I can find that version of you again too. I ignored her completely and continued filming content with my phone. Then Amelia suddenly spoke again. Back then, I promised to visit your hometown with you, but I never went even once. Why don't we go now and visit your parents together? My hand paused. Amelia, there's really no need anymore. My parents wouldn't want to see you either. Her body stiffened. After a long silence, she sighed softly. Then, how about we go to the market and buy the spinach you love most? I'll cook it for you tonight. Okay. I turned to look at her. I'm allergic to spinach. Did you really forget, or are you just too deeply obsessed with Andrew? It seemed like something finally clicked in her mind, and her expression instantly changed. No wonder, during that candlelight dinner, you didn't eat anything. She had prepared an entire table filled with food I couldn't eat. How exactly had she expected me to eat it? Amelia bit down on her lower lip. I'll stay by your side from now on. I said nothing. This was a tourist attraction. I couldn't exactly chase her away, so I let her follow me if she wanted. A short while later, her phone rang. It was a call from Andrew's lawyer, saying Andrew was desperately begging her to save him. Amelia immediately became nervous. On the other end of the phone, Andrew spoke pitifully. I'll stay with you forever. Please, help me one more time. Amelia looked at me, opening her mouth several times as though she wanted to say something. Then, seeing me turn around and leave without hesitation, she suddenly seemed to make up her mind. Andrew, you already abandoned me once back then. I'm not choosing you again. You broke the law and dragged me down with you. Figure things out yourself. Amelia ruthlessly hung up the phone. Then she even raised the phone toward me as proof. Frederick, I really cut ties with him this time. I swear I'll never contact him again. She grabbed my hand as the ocean breeze lifted her hair. I'm sorry. Before, I completely lost my mind. You once said you wanted to climb a mountain and watch the sunrise and sunset. Now that we both finally have time to rest, I'll go with you. But I didn't want to see Amelia anymore. Every time I looked at her, I remembered the suffocating misery of those 7 years. The countless nights I cooked dinner and waited for her at the table while she secretly chatted passionately with Andrew. The way she shared every important thing in her life with him instead of me. The way she could never truly care about me. The moment I learned the truth behind everything, I had already decided to leave. But Amelia seemed unwilling to accept reality and continued chasing after me relentlessly. I thought it was finally time to disappear far away, so I agreed. Amelia smiled so happily that her eyes instantly turned red. I'll remember everything you like to eat this time. I'll bring all your favorites with me. We agreed on a date and time. Amelia happily went off to research my preferences, preparing to surprise me. Meanwhile, I had already booked a flight overseas. That night, I saw the social media post she uploaded. At some point, she had secretly taken a photo of the two of us together and posted it online. Caption: learning to cook for my husband. Hope the flavors match his taste. The post instantly received countless likes. Our former co-workers immediately started gossiping excitedly in the comments. Lucas frantically sent me a private message. No way. Frederick, you were actually the boss's husband this whole time. You hid it well. No wonder you quit your job. Turns out you went off to enjoy the rich life. I laughed and corrected him. Ex-husband. They continued chatting nonstop, saying all kinds of envious things. The title and recognition I had waited 7 years for. She was finally willing to give it to me now. But unfortunately, I no longer cared anymore. Chapter 10. What kind of gift do you like? Amelia sent me a video while shopping at a mall. The camera swept across rows of expensive luxury goods. Whatever you want, I'll buy it for you. I'll make up for all the suffering you endured these past 7 years. At first, I didn't want to reply at all, but she kept rambling nonstop. So eventually I casually pointed at a tie. Amelia immediately sent me a soft, sweet voice message. Tomorrow, I'll personally put it on you at the hotel entrance. I answered absent-mindedly while secretly packing my luggage. Early the next morning, Amelia arrived wearing a beautiful dress, carrying several large shopping bags, with exquisite makeup carefully done as she waited for me to appear. Meanwhile, I was already on a flight overseas. Amelia sent me countless messages, but I never saw them. Only after the plane landed did all the notifications flood in at once. I'm here already. It's been over half an hour. Where are you? It's okay. I'm sure traffic delayed you. I'm not blaming you. It's already been 3 hours. Did something happen to you? Frederick, where are you? Then came endless phone calls. I didn't answer. After arriving at the hotel, I showered and lazily fell asleep. Half asleep, my phone suddenly rang. Out of habit, I answered it. The moment Amelia's aggrieved voice came through the phone, my drowsiness instantly vanished. Frederick, we promised to go mountain climbing together. Why did you break your promise? Do you know how stupid I looked standing outside the hotel waiting for you for 5 whole hours? My legs are completely numb. Listening to her complaints, I coldly snorted. Now we're even. Back then, we had also agreed to go mountain climbing together. I happily ran up the mountain early, set up the tent myself, and spent the entire night getting bitten by mosquitoes while waiting for her. But she never came. When I returned home the next day, she didn't even mention standing me up. Instead, she blamed me for not preparing breakfast for her. Only later did I learn the truth. That night, she had been accompanying Andrew while he drank himself into a stupor after his divorce, completely forgetting about our plans. So those 5 hours she spent waiting outside the hotel, considered repayment for the night I once spent waiting for her. Amelia fell silent. Then I heard her choking back tears. I'm sorry. I finally understand now how painful it felt waiting for someone like that. I really didn't do it on purpose. No matter where you go, I'll search for you to the ends of the earth. Just wait for me. After hanging up, I blocked every possible way for her to contact me. I had already seen the limitless future waiting ahead of me. I no longer wanted to waste another second of my youth on her anymore.